If I could have your attention, we'll get started. Maybe I could ask for some noise from those folks that were at our welcome reception last evening. Welcome reception. Okay. For those of you that couldn't make it, I just want to let you know you missed probably some of the most exquisite champagne, Cristal, some of the most tasty beluga caviar, cheeses from all up and down the coast. But what was best was the unprecedented company. So I thank those that were there, and I encourage those of you that weren't there to join next year. So let's move right to our drawing. You know, over the semesters, we have given away some amazing gifts. Cars, exotic trips, electronics, and of course the occasional lunch with yours truly, right? Well, we decided in the spirit of building community, we're going to mix it up this year. We're going to send 6 of you to dinner and a show. Okay, now you get quiet. See, this is good.
What?
Dinner at Ambrosia Italian Restaurant across the street, and either Little Women or The American Dream, the Zoo Story, which are coming up right here, performed and produced by our own drama department. So that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Absolutely. So since I won't be there to be a host to make sure that everybody has a good time, that things are moving along, and that you get from point A to point B, it occurred to us that we should probably start with finding a table captain, right? Table captain. A strong table captain would be needed. Someone with strong presence, organized, easy in social settings, and of course a bit of charisma never hurts, right? So our planning committee of Joyner, Cruz, and Kuhn got together, and there were a variety of potential people that would do really well at this job. But it was unanimous in the end that the only person that we thought truly capable of this at this particular time was our own man about campus, Alexio Perez. So Alexio was handing out programs. Is he in the theater yet? Alexio, come on, buddy. Timing is everything in comedy, right? Where's Alexio? Alexio. So get your tickets out, get ready. You didn't hear my build-up. So, okay, Alexio, let's give Alexio a round of applause. Go on down, buddy. Come on down. You have no idea what you just agreed to, but I know you're a good sport. So Alexio is going to be our table captain. Come on down, come on. It's a good thing. You and 5 other individuals will be at dinner. How you doing, Alexio? Good summer? Good. I see you've been not at the gym as often as normal, right? Right? Give me that time. All those boxes, absolutely. Okay, so let's pick some names for dinner. Alexio, you're going to be our table captain for a dinner of 6 people. Dinner at Ambrosia Italian Restaurant, and then a theater production right here in the Jamestown Theater. How about that?
Nice.
Okay, there you go. That's what I expected. Okay, let's pick some names. Got a number. 622-111. Oh, Kim Folger. Another number there. I think she knows her way to the theater, so we're in business here. 622-199. Right behind her, I got Laura Cooper. This would be a test if I get all 5 names right. Okay. 622-211. 211. Me. Jesse Klein. Okay. 168. 622-168. 168. Oh, Diane Fox. Not bad, pretty good average here by the names. How many more? Just 2 more. 622-134. Oh my gosh, Rhonda! Alexio. We got one more. Is this it? Right now, I've got to get another mail for Alexio. We're in big trouble with dinner. 622-044. 044. There we go. Oh my gosh. Tell me your name. Paul. Oh, Paul, electrician, right? Welcome. Great. Excellent. Okay. So give these guys a big round of applause. And Alexio, thanks for being here. I'll explain the rest of the deal later. Okay. But I can tell you, there's always a little small fine print, right? Okay, so the only deal is, when we come back together in January, we need a report from the group on how dinner went, okay? It can be musical, it can be dramatic, it can be interpretive dance, it can be haiku, however you choose to do it, but we'll be looking forward to your dinner report in January. Okay. So again, good morning, and for those of you, excuse me, who are returning here to campus after being away for the summer, welcome back. And for those of you this morning who worked all summer serving our students and keeping the college open, thank you. We appreciate that. This morning, I am pleased to say, I'm looking over, should have got this thing a little shorter when we got this one. We are joined this morning by our district's esteemed Board of Trustees. I'd like to introduce the trustees at this time. Board President Trustee Stephanie O'Brien. Our newest trustee, Stuart Tannenberg. Trustee Diana Conti. Trustee Board Vice President Dr. Eva Long. And trustee running down the aisle, Wandine Trainer. Catch your breath. Thank you, trustees, for all that you do on behalf of the district. Oh, Brady's here. Brady Beavis, thank you, Brady, for missing the other trustees. I thought you'd be down here in the VIP seats, so thank you, Brady, for your presence this morning. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the leadership of the faculty, Academic Senate President Sarah McKinnon. The leadership of the staff, Classified Senate President Monica Rudolph. Monica's back in the house. She's up there with you too. And leadership of the students, ASCON President Steve Petker. And our soon-to-be student trustees, here this morning, Michael Trump. Okay, we'll get the opportunity to swear him in next week at the board meeting. So the last time that many of us were together was at the 87th annual commencement ceremony in May, when we celebrated the success of over 380 graduates who earned over 430 degrees and certificates. I think that deserves a round of applause. And of course, we celebrated the success of hundreds of students transferring to university. So our featured speaker, of course, was Congressman Jared Huffman, who inspired us all with his words. Congressman Huffman had such a positive experience at the College of Marin at commencement that I received a phone call from his staff a couple weeks ago. And Congressman Huffman wanted to know if he could bring a colleague along and have a town meeting right here. So I'm pleased to announce that next Tuesday, Congressman Huffman, along with Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi, will be here at College of Marin for a town hall meeting. Woo-hoo! The focus of the town hall will be focused on what she's calling bookends: Smart Start, Early Childhood Ed, and then college affordability. And I truly hope that you'll consider joining us, and in particular, it would be a great experience for your students to come. I do want to tell you that there's going to be some restrictions to getting into the theater, and I know that Chief O'May will be sending out a notice on that. Perhaps it's around like can't bring backpacks and that kind of thing. So watch for that notice. But I'd also appreciate knowing if you do plan to bring your class, so we can kind of plan on how many people to accommodate that morning. So it's a great opportunity for us. So, one of the other traditions that we have here at the College of Marin is to welcome new employees to the college community at the beginning of each semester. And at this time, I'd like to refer you to your Convocation program, truly hot off the press. First of all, I'm going to ask you to join me in thanking the communications and reprographics staff for their fine work in producing this fall's Convocation program. Let's do the... Check. There we go. Running out of hands up here. Okay. So you've got your convocation packet, and I'm going to start with the new full-time faculty. Folks, I'd ask that when your name is called that you stand and be acknowledged and remain standing until we introduce the entire group of you. First of all, Dr. Andrei Barashkov, Spanish instructor. Steve Behringer, kinesiology instructor and head baseball coach. Dr. Trevor Bjorkman, music John Dans, mental health counselor. Jason Dunn, fine arts instructor. Tanya Hirsch, English skills instructor. Patricia Hewlin, fine arts instructor. Dr. Jonathan Marhinke, chemistry instructor. And Dr. Rachel Webster, biology instructor. These are your new full-time faculty. Congratulations. We also have some new staff in our mix, full-time staff. I'd like to introduce them at this particular time. Oksana Pinsabene, tutoring center coordinator. Tim Schreiner, EOPS care and powerwork specialist. Alexio Good Sport Perez, receiving clerk. And Paul Wilson, maintenance electrician. You had the opportunity to meet one of our dinner guests, Paul Wilson. Congratulations to the new staff members. Moving on into the ranks of management. Patrick Ikotutu, Chief Information Officer, Director of Information Technology. Dr. Pearl Lee, Director of Library Services. And Mr. Greg Nelson, Vice President of Finance and College Operations. Congratulations to our new managers. We have a couple supervisors, new supervisors as well. Tara Arenas, single stock coordinator. And Jeff Cox, custodial services supervisor. Congratulations to our new supervisor. I should have clarified in the beginning while I was working out the electronics here is that we introduce everybody that from each convocation to each convocation. So if folks got introduced at the last convocation, you started between here and now, you get introduced now. Those that get introduced between now and January and so on, you get the picture. I just wanted to clarify that in case you thought, well, what about me? So there we go. We also have a whole host of new part-timers with us this semester. In fact, we have 25 new part-timers with us. And if you are a part-time employee, I'd like to ask that you stand, and we will have you introduce yourself by telling us your name and position. You're a new part-timer among us. New part-timer? Before I send Jonathan up upstairs. No new part-timers? There you go, right back there.
I'm Terry DiMartini, Early Childhood Education.
William Cruz, Math Department.
Okay, this time I would like to ask, we truly could not do what we do with our part-time staff. No way. I'd like to ask all part-timers to please stand so we can show you some love. We truly do appreciate you. We also have a variety of, you guys are ahead of me right there. Slide clickers. We have a variety of new folks the folks aren't new, but they're in new positions. So I'd like to take a moment to clarify who's on first. So first of all, Jonathan Eldridge, Vice President of Student Learning and Student Services. Carrie Torres, Assistant Vice President for Instructional Support. Annie Rakuti, Director of College Services. Rose Jacques has moved to Administrative Assistant to the Counseling Department. Rose. Mina Namvar, moving and doing some time in IT Department. Mina, congratulations. Carol Perez is now going from a 0.5 job placement and 0.5 financial aid to 1.0 job placement. Carol Perez. And finally, last but certainly not least, Cynthia Levy has moved to community education. Congratulations. So one of the other traditions that we have at the beginning of fall semester, beginning of a new academic year, and And this is also in the spirit of community building. These photos are from last spring's employee recognition event. And it's a little far for somebody to see, but it's a whole lot of people having a good time. And that's what it's all about. But at the beginning of the semester, we like to spend some time getting caught up. What are the milestones that have taken place between the last fall convocation and this fall convocation? So those milestones in life. So, one of those milestones, of course, is marriage or commitment ceremonies. Do we have any marriages or commitment ceremonies to celebrate? Okay, let me check on this side before I run over there. Any over here? You know, I did hit 50 this year. Now slowly down a little bit. But 50 is the new 49, so at least when you're climbing up the hill. I'm sorry, well, give me the hand over again. Okay. Rather than, okay. You all yell it out and I'll tell you.
I'm Yolanda Tweedy. I was Yolanda Rossi. So. June 28th. Yes, I work at the center here in Canfield, yes.
Big round of applause for Other weddings or commitment ceremonies? Other weddings are, down here. Yes, sir.
My name is Farhat Indir. I'm still same. My marriage is December 13 last year. And we have baby coming up next month.
Farhad works in our IT department. Other weddings or commitment ceremonies? Okay. Last chance. Oh, way over there. Okay. I know that's Crystal, right? I can't see. No, I can't see. Put my glasses on. Okay. We'll work our way over there. We'll fill her music. Okay, standing up, everybody clapping, that's good. Mala.
I'm Mala Allen, and I got married in April 21st.
And Mala, of course, is one of our math instructors, math professors. Okay, now we move on from commitment ceremonies to babies, and I know we've got some new babies. All right, here. Oh, thank you.
Cheryl Rogo, and I'm working kinesiology and health. And I had baby number 3 in January, and we finally got our girl. Woo!
Well, thank you. Other babies on this side of the house. Other babies over here. We're on babies, folks. Not puppies, babies. I know there's some babies over there, so I'm working my way over there. So I know that. I know that Kara Crichton and David King had a baby. Oh wait, my notes said 2 babies, right? That's right, okay. So despite the fact they're both in English, started at the same time, 2 different babies, right? They're right here.
Who was first? I think you were first.
I was first, yeah. I'm Dave King, I teach in English, and baby Harper was born last December.
Karen Crichton, English department, baby Natasha born March 3rd.
Other babies back here. Okay.
I'm Phyllis Johnson of the ESL department, and my granddaughter, Jillian Grace, was born in January.
No, with grandbabies, I'll take this all day, folks. I'm sorry. I will tell you though, it can take a week to get into my office, but if you bring a baby, you get right through the front door. So, baby. Okay, please stand.
Hi, I'm Nora Bowen at the Children's Center at IBC, and my first granddaughter was born April 8th.
Congratulations. So all the first-time grandparents, congratulations, and give them a big round of applause. Any other parents? Okay. So let's mix it up a little bit. So I know there was a lot of adventures that happened this summer. a lot of hikes, camp outs, trips. But I have to tell you first, while you're thinking about your adventures this summer, I was not feeling the love this summer. All the adventures you took, I got one postcard. Where's my friend Professor Bob McCoy, psychology, back in the back? Thank you, Bob, for showing the love. I appreciate that. And for the rest next summer, I'll look forward to your postcards as well. So what? Some fun adventures. Any fun adventures? Diane, please.
I jumped out of an airplane.
Oh, my God. Jump out of an airplane. Wow, top down. Yes, ma'am.
My boyfriend and I toured the Pacific Northwest using no fewer than 14 different forms of transportation.
Wow. We should have a flex program on that itself. Absolutely. Other adventures? Yes?
I went tent camping with a 4 and a 1-year-old for the first time.
That's an adventure, Rachel Webster. Absolutely. Other adventures? Other adventures? Yes?
I visited South Africa and Croatia, and your postcards getting there.
I'll hold you to that. Okay, let me work my way over this side. Any other plane jumping? Anybody set themselves on fire? Yes, coming your way.
I laid on a bed of nails.
Laid on a bed of nails. Lay a shark. Physics. Is it a physics experiment of some kind? Okay, there we go. Any other notable adventures? Sandy.
We remodeled our kitchen and still will be married 40 years ago.
So as we wrap this section up, how about some, just for everybody's benefits, just some last best reads. Last best read. Last best read.
Swamplandia.
Swamplandia.
People of the world.
People of the world.
Half the sky.
Half the sky? Half the sky.
Martian.
Loveland and the good. Right over there on the other side of the room.
The art of racing in the rain.
The art of racing in the rain. Your inner fish. Golf. Something cafe. Lovers at the Chameleon Cafe. Then that's a visual. And golf. Absolutely. Okay. Let's give yourselves a big round of applause for participation. Thank you. So, another voracious reader who lives on in spirit with us is Jack Eldridge, the son of Jonathan Eldridge, Vice President of Student Learning and Student Success. And I am so happy today to announce the establishment of the Jack Eldridge Student Book Grant Program for the College of Marin. So in honor and celebration of Jack's life, we have the opportunity today to raise some money for this book grant program. There is a supporter among us who has said, I will match dollar for dollar for every dollar you raise today, up to $1,000 for this book grant program. And that means that we could potentially raise $2,000, if not more today, to support this book grant program in honor of Jack and also to support College of Marin students in need. So I ask you, are you in? Yeah! One more time, are you in? Yeah! Okay, Nicole, I want you to tell us how we can donate today. Remember, it's today.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicole Cruz, and I work in the Office of Communications, Community Relations, and Advancement. And just really briefly, I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can donate. At our marin.edu/advancement website, you'll see the green Donate Now button. If you go there and click on it, you'll be taken to our Nelnet site and prompted to proceed to this screen where you can enter your personal and billing information. But most importantly, make sure you select Other at the bottom of that drop-down menu, and that's where you can type in the Jack Eldridge Book Grant Program so we make sure your donation gets coded appropriately. Also, back at that advancement homepage, under How to Give, you've got a PDF, so it's a fillable form, and Again, personal information, billing information, designating other at the bottom, Jack Eldridge Book Grant Program, and I'll be happy to process everything for you today. So look forward to a lot of forms coming in. I've got paper forms on hand in the event that you're ready to do it on your way out. And we've got one right there. Excellent.
Let's hear for Nicole. Thank you all for your consideration and generosity. We're going to now move to talking a little bit about Flex Week. She's double duty down here, right here. She's also my clicker. So we'll give her a moment to...
I can multitask.
So this year we have had the gift of having 9 Flex Days in our academic calendar. 5 in the fall and 4 in the spring. And by comparison, we only had 2 Flex Days last year. So I'd like to take a moment to thank the United Professors of Marin for their shared commitment to making this possible. Thank you, UPM. So what an impressive lineup of programs and activities offered this week. I had the opportunity to spend time in a variety of sessions, and I have to tell you, I was truly inspired by the depth of engagement, and in some cases, the courageous conversations that were underway, all with a focus on student success. Regardless of our role, or how long we've been in the business of education, I believe we have an obligation to our profession, our colleagues, and most certainly an obligation to our students to ensure that we are on top of our game to the best of our ability. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the amazing team, the Flex Program Planning Committee, led by the amazing Beth Patel. Beth, please stand and be acknowledged. Others, Christina Combs, Diane Traversi, Diane Faw, Devin Kinka, Pia Macion, Anne Earhart, and Carrie Torres. Big round of applause for the Planning Committee. I'd like to ask at this time, if you were a presenter of one of the Flex activities, please stand so we can acknowledge you as well. What a team. Excellent. Thank you all. At this point in my remarks, I'd like to refer you to the updates included in your Convocation program. There is an impressive list of accomplishments included, and I hope you'll agree that we are making tremendous progress across all areas of the college, which is reflected in our recent Strategic Plan Progress Report. Included in the Convocation program is also a list of some of our priorities for the coming year. Our accomplishments are made possible through our planning efforts. Through planning, we prioritize that which is most important to us, and it's through our planning that we commit resources to getting the job done. So with a bit of planning, some resources, and a whole lot of hard work on your behalf, magic happens. So speaking of magic, we've had some relatively positive media coverage over the past week or so. And I know Professor Scott Serafin is somewhere up here, and I just want to ask Scott, are you feeling amped up today? Yeah. Absolutely. Are you really? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Thank you. I appreciated your positive comments in the recent coverage. It appears that the Marin Independent Journal wants to believe we are headed in a positive direction. But just when you think the story is really going well, they drag the past into the dialogue. And I have to tell you, this is frustrating for me, and perhaps it's frustrating to others who are positive about the experience they're having today at the college, who believe in the direction we are headed. So far be it from me to suggest how you might channel this positive energy. But I remain hopeful, truly hopeful, that one day the story will be told without reference to the past. So, I give you a thought to ponder. But I digress, and we go back to planning, the planning agenda. Here's the visual, which may look familiar. I refer to it as the bubblegram, which illustrates our integrated planning model. So as a reminder, up in the right corner up there, we have a 10-year educational master plan that was developed and approved in 2009. The 10-year educational master plan is supported by 3 3-year strategic plans. And we just completed reporting on the second year of the second strategic plan. So essentially what that means is we have one more year on this current strategic plan, and that we must, over the next year, build out that final 3-year strategic plan, which is going to be one of our major priorities for the next year. It is through this effort that we make meaning and bring life to that which is most important to us. the theme of Flex Week, Student Success Through Rigor, Relevance, and Relationships. Dr. Christina Leimer, our new Director of Planning, Research, and Institutional Effectiveness, will lead the development of our new strategic plan. She'll be with us starting later this month, and there will be plenty of opportunities for you all to be involved in our next strategic planning process. So let's move on to the topic of accreditation. So if I thought I was in denial about summer being over, I really had to tell you I'm in denial about where we are with the accreditation timeline, which means that it's right before us. Believe it or not, it's that time again that we begin to prepare for our next self-study and visit, which occurs in the fall of 2016. And despite my state of denial, fortunately Dr. Chris Myers, Interim Director of PRE, and Sarah McKinnon, Professor of the ESL and Academic Senate President, have been able to keep me grounded this summer. And let me take the opportunity at this time to thank Dr. Myers for his time at the college over the past few months, helping us through the transition. As an interim director, Chris has truly been a breath of fresh air. He's been fully engaged and has worked closely with PRE staff and Sarah in setting the stages for our next self-study. Dr. Myers is not here today, but please join me in a round of applause thanking him for his service to the college. At this time, someone far more enthusiastic about accreditation at this time, I'd like to invite Sarah McKinnon to the stage to offer some important thoughts on accreditation. Please give Sarah a big round of applause.
You're all jumping up and down. Hey, accreditation! Yeah, no. Anyway, here we go. The answer to the question is no, it doesn't. At all. And as he mentioned, we're starting the next process to do the self-study, which has a new name, which I'll explain later. But it takes about 2 years to prepare a 400-page report that we give to them in August of 2016. So, you may remember this. ACCJC at this point engenders copious amounts of fear given what's happened over the last couple of years at City College of San Francisco and other places across the state. And College of Marin has not been immune from their wrath either in recent years. We have 46 new faculty and numerous new staff, and I wanted to do a really brief explanation of why this, not why this is, but what happened. So, for those of us who are newly here and to remind the rest of us, let's not forget how it felt to be put on sanction. Hall of Fame here. So first off, in 2005, 6, and 7, we were put on successive years of warning. It was an annual badge. And then we were put on probation in 2008, and we all had to do program review in 3 months. It was great excitement. And I say no more. You turn right instead of left off the highway. Then from 2008 to 2010, we produced the next self-study, and we handed it in 2010, and they accepted it, but they gave us 9 recommendations in February of 2011. And we gave them a follow-up report in October of 2011, and they didn't particularly like it, and so they put us on warning again in 2012. So you guys will remember that 2012 was spent making plan after plan after plan. The technology committee, the facilities committee, all of us worked our tails off to produce the follow-up report. And thank God we were accepted and there were no recommendations. Last year in 2013, of course, we had to do a midterm report because we hadn't done enough reports by then. So we did another midterm report, and that has been accepted, and there were no recommendations. So the last 6 months, we've had a sigh of relief, and we haven't had to do too much. We did have to do an annual report, but that's it. So I wanted to say that over the last 10 years, since these warnings and everything began, College of Marin has gone through a tremendous transformation. And I wanted to mention a few of those points. Initially in 2004, we were sanctioned because we didn't have a governance system, we didn't have program review, and a number of other reasons. So now we have a fully functioning, well-oiled participatory governance system that many of you are a part of, and I gratefully acknowledge all of your participation in that. We have a program review system that is fully functioning. This is our original plan, which was to have us do one program review and the different parts go to different committees and then eventually goes into the budget process and the planning committee. That got a little unwieldy because ACCJC said we had to do this every year, and it was a little too much to do the entire review every year. So we separated it out in two parts, and the full program review is something that looks at your program statistically and evaluates the program itself. And it has 4 main sections. You can comment on facilities, on student access and success, curriculum, and SLOs, and make a point of improvement idea. Each of these goes to different committees who review them and summarize and put a summary together, which is actually posted on the program review website. If there are any requests or any ideas, they will go into PRAC, the Planning Resource Allocation Committee. They'll go on to the president, etc. We separated out budget requests. So if you're asking for full-time faculty, additional units, instructional equipment, a new computer for your office, etc., etc., these go into a mini review, which is available annually if you need it. And so these ones go to these other different committees that you can see here. I can say that a few years ago, as we were building the new science building and this building and other buildings, we had up to $800,000 worth of requests for instructional equipment. So many of you said, well, I never heard back. And I just want to say that it's not that I didn't want to send each and every one of you a letter. It was just overwhelmingly, I have no idea how to do that. I have created a webpage on the website where you can see the allocations since 2007 up to now, all of the documents there. There's a link on the main program review page. So we're attempting to make it as transparent as possible, as functioning as possible, and we're doing our best to make that work. So, next. You remember this slide. So we also were dinged in 2004 because we didn't have an integrated planning system. And so this is what we developed. Some of you will remember in Fusselman Hall having big discussions about this. And it's become a really good model. It's been, this one and our program review version is copied in different places across the state, in fact. So if you have questions, let me know. We have tremendous amounts of evidence posted online now, and the processes, I believe, are much more transparent than they were in the past. All of the committees have web pages where you can find agenda and minutes. The strategic plan evidence is posted, and there are copious amounts of it. All the program reviews from 2007 on are posted online. Committee reports, allocations, everything is posted. If you don't know where to look, please ask me, and I'll let you know. So now the process has come full circle, and we're back to the comprehensive self-study, except they changed the name. It's now called self-evaluation. Just because, So here's the serious part here. In order for accreditation to be worth anything, it needs the cooperation and participation of everyone in the college community. This may take the form of sitting on participatory governance committees and/or Senate committees, doing program reviews, filling out surveys as they come to you, and finally assessing, analyzing, and most importantly, discussing student learning outcomes, assessments, and results. I would ask if you could please record and report these discussions if possible. Send them into eventually we're going to have a pre-director in a couple of weeks. Because we have to document this in the self-study evaluation and in the annual reports. We have to write narrative responses now. So we need to show minimally that we are discussing and coming up with ideas of how to make improvements. We're going to be creating an ongoing accreditation steering committee this year, which will be part of the governance system, hopefully if GRC approves it. We're also going to be creating 4 large committees to tackle each of the 4 primary standards that accreditation requires. And I've laid out the overall process in your convocation packet. I will be asking for volunteers in the coming weeks, and I would request, please, 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 volunteer. You'll learn a lot about the college, you'll make new friends across departments, and you'll be able to make significant contributions to future plans and to the college as a whole. You'll help us to decide if we meet each of the substandards, of which there are now 118. So I said 4 standards, but 118 points we have to know. And if we don't meet them, we can decide what we need to do to try to meet them. Over the last 2 self-studies, there are 2 people that have worked very hard on them. Well, there's a number of them, but one is Yolanda Blisma, and one is Blaise Woodleaf, and also David Snyder. However, and I've worked on the last one and all these follow-up reports, but it's moving from 6 years to 7 years the next time, so the next self-study will be due in 2023, which means you start in 2021. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to be around or Yolanda's going to be around. Therefore, we would really hope that new faculty, people who are planning to be around here for a while, will get involved, learn the process, and be able to take it from us, okay? So, I realize that there's a fair amount of cynicism surrounding how ACCJC makes decisions after a visiting team has made a report. However, if we believe that we have met the standards and are able to show ample evidence to back up our claims, and we tell our stories completely, we should be okay. We are already doing what needs to be done and making plans to improve in areas where we may fall short currently. I hope that we can approach this task with pride in ourselves and in our accomplishments, and with the goal of making the college better. This is not for ACCJC, but for ourselves, for our college, and most of all for our students. I look forward to working with you all, and all together, College of Marin will be on top. Thank you.
I have the fortunate opportunity to make a few comments during our convocation today. I'm very excited to see all of the new and returning employees to the College of Marin community. Often referred to by Dr. Kuhn as the village. You'll hear him say, it takes a village to get our work done. So my brief message this morning is about this village of learning. What does the village require of you? The answers come from walking across our campuses and peering into rooms where classes or meetings are being held, or listening to the conversations of students in hallways or in the cafeteria, where I see such dedication to growing a community of learning and student success. The village is at work. So many of our employees are dedicated to kindness, social justice, and walking humbly as a village member as we support our students and each other in achieving student success. Our village of employees works tirelessly to build bridges to achieve student success, and where there is discourse, to engineer peace. Our village rejoices in its successes. It is patient and supportive where there is suffering. Our employees work hard to live and work in harmony in our village. They associate with our village members who need our support as the village changes from what was to what will be. This year will be particularly challenging for our employees as they leave our village through our new early retirement program. But let's rejoice in their contributions to the village and remember they were instrumental as builders of the foundations to student success. So as you walk across our campuses, remember that it takes a village. Walk humbly, work in harmony. Be builders in the village so that we can accomplish our goals, so that we can problem solve, so that the village achieves student success. Thank you so much for all of your contributions, and we look forward to a productive year ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for bearing with me while I get us to our speaker here shortly. And also thank you, President Kuhn, for your generosity, both in terms of establishing the book grant and throughout the many months of Jack's ordeal, and thank you all for that. In the convocation packet, which I'm sure you've read thoroughly at this point, I included a number of successes and areas of significant progress that all of you have been a part of this past year. It's a small sampling, but they are representative of the daily hard work and commitment that goes into ensuring the College of Marin perpetually pursues its best self. I also wrote that we're in a fortuitous position with a number of plans that have been mentioned this morning affording us the opportunity to further hone our values and commitments to our students, our community, and each other. And while I'm not going to go into the details of the student success and support plan, the equity plan, the strategic plan, or the accreditation self-evaluation here, that's where you're supposed to applaud because I'm not going to go into this. I do want to take this opportunity to provide a bit of perspective on how these efforts translate into the rigor, relevance, and relationships we all aspire to. When we talk about planning, we're really trying to figure out where we want to go. As Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. So how do we know where we're going, or where we should be going? Data, right? You get that? Okay, that's right. We need to understand our data. Who our students are, who they will be, what they need, and how we need to change the way we go about our business to help them achieve their educational goals. How many of you have either heard me talk or bug you about, or had Rhonda bug you about participating in the Community College Survey of Student Engagement, the Community College Faculty Survey of Student Engagement this last spring? Fair number of you. We had hundreds of students participate and dozens of faculty participate in these two surveys. And just so you know, as a refresher, the Community College Survey of Student Engagement is administered annually by over 900 community colleges across the country. So it provides us information about how we're doing here, but also in relation to community colleges across the country, and then also subsets of peer institutions. And it really looks at things like active and collaborative learning, where we do slightly better than average across the country in that regard, as well as student effort, academic challenge, student-faculty integration, and support for learners, where we do slightly worse than average in those categories. But that's okay. Now on Monday, a core group will meet to determine how to roll out this SESI data and get all of it in front of you in meaningful ways. He might actually be there at the meeting as well. Today, I just want to give you a glimpse of the type of information we now have. So regarding rigor, keeping with the theme, when asked how often students in your class work harder than they thought they could to meet your standards or expectations, 65% of faculty said that happens often or very often. Now, when asked how often they feel they have worked harder than they thought they could to meet your standards or expectations, only 45% of students said often or very often. Now, a similar magnitude of disconnect between faculty and students exists with the extent to which exams have challenged students to do their best work. So while we're concerned about students not being prepared, not spending enough time studying, which they admit to in the survey, perhaps we can find ways to push a bit more on the grit of our students in some interesting ways. And that's an example of how we can look at this data and try some things and try to make sense of the various pieces of it. Now, regarding relevance, well over half of our students surveyed, and this is good news, said that their experience at COM has contributed a lot to their knowledge, skills, and personal development in understanding themselves. Similar numbers were found regarding students' development in learning effectively on their own, learning effectively with others, learning effectively with technology, and the ability to think critically and analytically. So, nice work, faculty. And regarding relationships, when asked how much the college emphasizes helping you cope with your non-academic responsibilities, work, family, etc., 40% of the students surveyed says the college helps very little. Now, I think all of us in the room would say, well, wait a minute, we help, that's what we're here for. So we have to ask ourselves, well, how are we not translating that in the ways that it makes sense for our students? Yet nearly 90% of students indicated they have positive relationships with their instructors, which is a very good thing. Maybe they won't if you challenge them more, but that's part of the balance. I do want to say, in terms of supporting our students with their needs, a couple of things. This Saturday, many offices on campus will be open to help students prepare for those last-minute things, getting their books, registration issues, financial aid issues. Also, we'll have folks on campus helping students find their way to the actual classrooms where they're registered for their courses. And thank you all to everyone who will be here on campus tomorrow, sacrificing part of your weekend for the benefit of our students. And then also, Tara Arenas, our new single-stop coordinator, is coordinating the Road to Success, which some of you will remember took a hiatus but is now back in full force. Tara has been in touch and will be in touch more about opportunities to participate. This is a way of all of the resources we do have to help students manage their academic and non-academic interests. And that will be coming in early September. So these data points are just the tip of the iceberg. We now have some why data to go with our what data. We can look at how we compare to other similar institutions, and we can look at how we compare with how we think we should be doing, regardless of who we're comparing ourselves to. In other words, we can set goals and then measure again. Now, data are critical to developing meaningful plans, whether those plans are addressing issues of equity, issues of preparation, issues of rigor, or more than likely, all of the above. And much of our data will beg further questions rather than give us answers. But they serve to help us better narrow in on what are our problems, what are our issues. I put this up here. This is one of the great mediocre films of the 80s, of which there were many. But I thought it sort of fit. We have lots of modern problems, and we're occasionally wacky and off the wall. So what are the core issues we need to address in order to improve student learning outcomes, persistence, and get more students to their educational goals in a timely fashion? Well, our data clearly suggests what we already know. Many of our students are underprepared academically and aren't progressing well toward their objectives. This issue impacts all of us. It impacts how we teach, it impacts how we schedule course sequences, it impacts how we allocate units, it impacts the budget, it impacts how we provide support services and what those services are. This is why we've undertaken two major efforts, which we will continue to focus on this coming year, and which will be key pieces of our planning agenda. The first is K-12 collaborations, or getting to a place where we spend less time getting students ready for college once they're already at college. And 2, basic skills, or getting to a place where we spend less time getting students ready for college once they are at college. The first involves a more active role, aligning K-12 curriculum with ours. And we've already talked with some of the local principals about convening faculty for those types of conversations, which is pertinent, especially given Common Core conversations. Working with students as they start high school, not just as they finish it, and helping kids in Marin County to see from an early age that college is an inevitability, not just a possibility, but there are certain things you have to do to get there. And that has a lot to do with the Marin Promise, of which we are a major part. Now the second, basic skills piece, involves a more coherent, integrated approach to how we assess, teach, support, and challenge students who are here, not yet fully ready for some or all of their college level work. Great things are already being done and being tried in this regard, from accelerated English to learning communities and first-year experience pilots, to very productive conversations with and within the math department, to the many efforts supported by the Basic Skills Initiative and that steering committee. Now, Sarah put up a chart up here that showed the planning process and how we go from program review, and then it filters into committees, the things said in program review, and then that comes to recommendations, and that moves forward. So out of the program reviews over the last couple of years, the Student Access and Success Committee has been looking at all of that data, believe it or not. And the committee's recommendation to PRAC this past spring states, many discussions relating to basic skills, developmental math and English, college skills, and how to effectively serve the many students who come to COM less than fully prepared to be successful academically are occurring at the college. It is time to pull all of these discussions together into a master plan for college preparation, derived from the good work currently underway across the institution. An institutionally owned master plan to address basic skills is particularly timely, as many of the issues COM will be required to address in the mandated equity plan, due to the Chancellor this November, linked directly to the college's poor performance in helping students move to college ready in math and English. The equity plan will outline the imperative, the basic skills master plan will outline the strategies and intended outcomes, and the next institutional strategic plan can then catalog these action steps necessary to make real progress. Will ACCJC like that, Sarah? Yeah, they will. Okay, good. All right, this year we will put all of these and many other promising practices together into that basic skills master plan, which will inform our equity plan and provide some of the objectives and action steps of our next strategic plan, thus ensuring we actually make substantive progress. Now, I will be sending an invitation to participate in this effort with more details soon, but I know that this plan, when fully formulated, will focus squarely on rigor, relevance, and relationships. Here's where I want to pause to tell a very quick story, and then I'm going to get us to our speaker. This summer, we had the opportunity, speaking of partnerships and relationships, to work with 10,000 Degrees. Everyone know 10,000 Degrees? If not, your neighbor can fill you in on that. Phenomenal scholarship organization, but more than that. They really help underserved students in Marin County and Sonoma County find their way to college, and they work with them through high school and then through college to make sure they're successful. And this summer, we had the first College of Marin Summer Bridge program that was co-coordinated with 10,000 Degrees. And this program involved 24 students just out of high school who had already registered at COM and had taken the assessment and placement tests. And they came for 3 weeks this summer. And during those 3 weeks, they did an intensive counseling course, Counseling 115, at the end of which they received a transferable unit. So they already have college credit under their belts. They also had intensive review in math and English. At the end of the program, we did math and English assessment again. And nearly half of the students placed up at least one level, some 2 levels, and some 3 levels. Yeah. And while we haven't finalized all the data, it appears we may have just saved those 24 students in aggregate nearly 20 years of remedial education. So if we can do that in 3 weeks, imagine what we can do when we have an institutional plan and commitment to move us forward in this area. And it would be unconscionable if I didn't thank several people for their efforts. And if you're here and can stand when I thank you, that would be great. Caitlin Escobar, who taught the counseling course, Lala Allen, who did the math review, Meg Pascal, who did the English help make sure everything came together with our community partnership. Gina Cohen, Chair of Counseling, who found a way to make sure that we stayed true to the vision. And who else am I forgetting? Scott Von Duran at 10,000 Degrees, certainly, and there were many, many other people in the room and at the campus who made this happen. We're going to expand it. We're going to make it the natural starting point at College of Marin, and we will make a significant difference in the lives of our students. Oh, I forgot. Summer bridge programs. You get that? Summer bridges? Todd and Jeff? Okay. All right, finally, one last note on planning. This is probably what it feels like sometimes. It probably feels like the worst B-movie ever, according to some critics. But I also think that planning doesn't have to be unspeakable horrors from outer space, paralyzing the living and resurrecting the dead. I think all of the accomplishments outlined through the Convocation packet, those all tie back to plans already in place. And many of these accomplishments are critical building blocks to what comes next. Now is the time for us to determine what that is that comes next, and to make sure that we know where we're going so we don't end up someplace else. Our data inform where we're going, our issues inform the actions we need to take to get there, and our plans are the roadmap. So I look forward to working with you, all of you, throughout the fortuitous year ahead. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Beth Patel, who will introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I do introduce our speaker, I just want to take a moment to again thank everyone who showed up this week and participated in the Flex Week opportunities, and particularly those people who led out and worked hard this summer in presenting those Flex opportunities, and we're going to be having a lot more of those this semester and into the spring. It's my true pleasure this morning to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Derek Smith. Dr. Smith is an assistant professor of educational leadership at the University of San Francisco, and he's been very involved in things in research dealing with culturally responsible discipline practices, critical pedagogy, transformative school leadership, and school justice schooling. He's also been involved with the Oakland Unified School District, Castro Valley Unified School District, and I'm very happy to say he was previously a community college instructor at De Anza College, so he knows us. He's one of our people, and we're very glad to have him. I had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Smith speak last year at a conference, and I was very struck by the message that he had. He's very powerful, he's provocative, and he's very passionate about the topic that he's going to be presenting today. He'll be talking about, when I heard him, he talked about issues of race, social justice, and equity. And he talked a lot about the challenges facing the students that we have in our classes. And the one thing that I took from him, though, despite those challenges, is that message of hope. And I hope you will welcome me join me in welcoming Dr. Smith and hearing his message, and to begin to think about how we can take those ideas and apply them to the students that we have here at the College of Marin, and what we can do for them going forward. Dr. Smith?
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here. The term convocation scares me quite a bit. The first time I did a convocation, it was in Kansas City, Missouri, and they're in deep trouble as a school district. It was Kansas City Metro, and I was asked to be the keynote to launch their discussion for moving forward, as they were going to be one of the few school districts in the United States to lose its accreditation as a district. And when I walked into the evangelist hall that they were holding this in, now mind you, I'm from the Bay Area, and we don't really have evangelist halls. And I've seen them on television, but I'm from Oakland, we don't have those. And so what they are, if you haven't been, is that you go to a church, and then across the street, there's a small stadium. And so I go to the church, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then they said, no, sir, it's across the street. And so I walk in, and there's a band playing. They got drinks in the, it wasn't church, it was the school district, and schools need drinks. And so I go in, and there's literally 3,500 faculty and staff in there, and it's like 90% white on this side, 90% black on that side. And the introduction was, now we're going to have a great speaker that's going to tell us why we need to work together as a team. So I made it through that. But ever since then, my therapist and I work on the term convocation. And my last time at a community college here in the Bay Area was a tough one because the college was being challenged over its merits, and the accreditation committee had given them some very bad news recently. And so the new president, chancellor actually, was speaking before me to his staff, and they were booing him and hissing, and they had signs that were like signs at like a Raider game, you know, you suck, stuff like that. And he did a great job of saying, this is where we are, this is where we're going. People were yelling out, liar! And as they were booing and hissing, he was like, well, I'm going to have to stop here for our speaker. And they were, boo, boo, you liar! And then the person introduced me didn't even wait for that to stop. She came up and said, and now we have a great speaker that's going to talk about, and I was one of the researchers that worked on a report previous to their accreditation revelation that told them that they might end up having an accreditation problem. And so I was going to speak on those results. But anyway, the booing and the hissing, and then she said, and now Dr. Derek Smith. And I came up and people were still booing. Just like, boo, boo, and I got up there. So that was my last time with the community college here in the Bay Area, and that was in the fall of this year. But that speech went well too, because I threw out everything I was going to do, and I was very blunt and honest, and then I stayed an extra 2.5 hours for a Q&A with 200 faculty. And that was hard. But I ended up sitting on the edge of the stage, and no mic, and sweating and yelling, and they were yelling back, and it was beautiful. So now I'm going to talk to this wonderful, wonderful college with all your... Someone said, boo! Awesome! So, again, my name is Derek Smith. I'm a professor at the University of San Francisco. My background is largely in K-12 and then community college. I taught for 10 years in my hometown, Oakland, California. I taught a very special humanities class, thank you, that taught grades 9 through 12, critical theory, feminist theory, the history of globalization and the history of social movements. I did that for 10 years, 5 times a day for 170 students a year. And then I was asked to be a principal in San Francisco, so I did some time as a high school principal at June Jordan High School in San Francisco, and after that I was asked to come to the Foundation for California Community Colleges to do some grant giving and some policy analysis work. And so I did that for a while under the Chancellor's office, and after that I came over to the University of San Francisco, and so I'm in the Department of Leadership Studies. I train school principals and help folks with their master's and doctorate work doctoral work in organization and leadership. But I'm most excited about just being an old-fashioned youth worker, and I also did some work at Santa Rita County Jail, maximum security, taught there, and in San Quentin State Prison. But community colleges are much happier places than that, usually. And so I've been asked to talk a little bit about equity, and I will keep it pretty simple. It appears is that the College of Marin has made tremendous strides in serving its students, getting on the same page as what type of work needs to be done. It is data-driven, as they say, but it is also seemingly work that is done from the heart by a very caring and dedicated faculty. So with that, discussing equity is a much easier endeavor than it has been in the past and in certain spaces in California, which currently has the highest number of hate groups in the United States. So I get a lot of time with folks that resist the notion that equity is an important issue, largely because they don't know exactly what it is, and also because they were educated in the United States. So a lot of folks end up talking about diversity and something that we've already achieved, and what's the big deal about this equity stuff? Well, one of the reasons is that diversity is very easy to achieve once you get over your history of overt racial and racist practices, and practices that are homophobic and classist in nature, which is what the California Master Plan for Higher Education was about. And the struggle for open enrollment and access to inexpensive education was about in the 1960s, was the idea of getting over these overt practices. So diversity is simply an assemblance of different folks in one spot. If you let them in, you have diversity. But equity is very different. Equity now brings up the question of justice. And this is very different than equality. And I find that in my wonderful profession of education, people discuss these terms in such vagueness that they begin to lose their meaning. And that when we begin to discuss equity, we discuss it as if it is the same as diversity and equality. But this requires something altogether different. And I also find that many of us, as we discuss equity, we don't actually borrow from the past. We don't borrow from the reality that the struggle for justice is an ongoing one, and it is an international dynamic that people for many, many centuries have struggled with. And particularly in a modern era, you find it a major, major point of contention within a global capitalist economy. I'm not going to talk like this the whole time, by the way. So for the pieces of today, these are some of the references. I'll be mentioning on the point is that there's references. When you look at Marin County, this is actually on your left, a Marin County poverty map, okay, in which you can see the yellow and the darker reddish color represent higher rates of poverty in those areas of Marin County. You'll notice the yellow to your upper right is referred to often as the canal area of San Rafael. The little red portion you'll see down here at the lower piece is actually Marin City, home of Tupac Shakur. I'm sure there's other things about Marin City, but most folks remember that. Perhaps its history as a shipbuilding area in which many folks migrated to in the 1940s in order to have a decent job that were of all ethnicities. In the beginning, it was actually only 20% African American in 1942. Point is, Tupac grew up there, I guess. But you have a very interesting correlation between that and your school's rankings here in Marin County. Again, the darker orange and lightish yellow teardrops on your right are your lowest performing schools here in Marin County. And what you'll see is that in the area near the canal area of San Rafael. You'll see a couple of orange dots. The blue ones means that the date is not recorded. And down by Marin City, you'll see that nice little orange dot. Does everyone see that? Okay, great. So you have that one story, that you have poverty correlating with educational performance. Big revelation. But the other issue here is that when you look at a large portion of the county where there isn't necessarily much poverty, you still have above average, above national and state average rates of alcoholism and alcohol usage in Marin County as well. So you have both issues in both privileged spaces and what people like to refer to as underprivileged spaces. I don't use the term underprivileged because I think it's kind of I don't think it's a real term actually. I think either you have privilege or you don't. I don't know if you're underprivileged. That would kind of assume that we all are supposed to be privileged and some people just got a little. I prefer the sociological term targeted. I think targeted is actually more historically accurate, given that you can have people with such wealth in such close proximity to people in poverty for so many generations. It doesn't really sound like that should be easy to happen, and it's not quite an accident. So, anyhow, in the midst of all that, this was your 2014 Student Success Scorecard. Says that you have your students that are deemed as college prepared have a 78% degree completion rate, degree transfer or certificate, 46% for the unprepared, and overall 54%. This is on the Chancellor's website. And so I don't get in trouble for talking about the Chancellor's office. I won't do it too much. Let me just do it now. This is a very interesting chart because each of these categories are based on the lowest level of English and math that the student took when coming into the college. So basically, your students that are considered prepared for college do well, and they didn't come in at basic skills. And the folks who did come in needing basic skills classes came in as unprepared, and they didn't do as well. Okay, great. So, essentially, if you're not prepared coming into college, you're going to have a more difficult time completing. Am I telling you anything new? Okay, good. So these stats talk about the disproportionality of poor health and well-being here in Marin County. What you need to understand, this is a report commissioned by the Marin Community Foundation, came out, I believe it was 2 years ago, that talks about how basically Marin has some of the healthiest, wealthiest, successful, educated people in the United States, in the county, and simultaneously has some of the least healthy, least educated, least successful people in the United States simultaneously. All right? And so I can stop showing you slides. I'll just show you this one. This is my sister. She's much happier than I. She parties more, she goes out more, and she's about to be a middle school teacher. That's her boyfriend, Rob. Okay? Rob doesn't come from a wealthy family. Rob, if you talked about his background, would fit into many of the lower performing areas in terms of income and academic performance that you might see in Marin City and the canal area of San Rafael. But just like many folks in those areas, Rob was sitting with me at Thanksgiving dinner, me and my family, and he goes, "Derek, man, hey, I heard that you were in education." And I said, "I'm glad you heard that since you're dating my sister." "You should know that. That means that I know a few things." And he said, "Yeah, man," he was a tow truck driver. So he says, "Man, I'm trying to go back to school, man, I'm trying to go back to school." And my aunt says, what, you don't got a good enough job now, hitting him and stuff. And he's like, well, I always wanted to do something else. So I said, what you want to do, Rob? He said, I want to be like a welder or something. I said, that's awesome, man. Well, why don't you go to school? He was like, how do I do it? I grew up here in the Bay Area. This is for Fremont. I grew up in the Bay Area. I've always wanted to go back to school. I just didn't know where to begin. I said, well, why don't you, look here, go on the website, get yourself a little application, do your thing, enroll. And so he goes, all right, I'm going to do it, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to do it. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Everybody at the table was just excited. Like, good for you, Rob. It's funny because when I think about the table, it might sound strange or something. This is an all-black table with Rob being the least educated person, He's a great guy. We love him. I hope my sister marries him. He's an awesome, awesome man. And so my point is, Rob goes to a college that I will not name. He goes in, he says, hey, I'm trying to go to school. I want to get in the welding program, etc. They say, well, you're going to have to go through basic skills. You're going to have to take some English. And he goes, wait a minute. How do you know? Like, well, you said you wanted to be a welder, right? He said, I don't know what that means. What are you saying? Well, you have to take some basic skills. It's going to take you some time. He was like, but how do you know this? Like, well, it's for everybody. He said, it can't be for everybody. So he called me. He said, Derek, I'm having difficulty. I said, sure, man. What's the problem? He said, they're telling me that I'm not going to be able to be a welder for like 6 years. I said, I thought this was a 2-year thing. I said, oh yeah, see, the California community colleges aren't good with that. See, it's like, they say it's supposed to be a 2-year institution, but even the way they look at their data is like 6-year completion rates, which is really strange, right? And so he goes, okay, right on. So I hook him up with one of the professors in the department that he wants to be in. So he gets hooked up directly. So the professor tells him, these are the steps you take. No problem, do this and you'll be in. He goes back to the college. The woman tells him, I'm sorry, that's not the correct information. You're going to have to do this instead. He says, no, the professor told me this. She said, I don't care who told you that. And so he leaves again, okay? He does this 3 times, okay? Until finally he goes back and says, ma'am, I'm sorry, I want you to do this, this, and this. And you have to do it for me, and I'll take my chances. By the way, it turns out, he aces all the math placement tests, and I didn't even know. He was like, well, I got the calculus in high school. I was like, Rob, I thought you struggled with education. He was like, man, it's that writing stuff. I don't know why people do that. I was like, it's usually the reverse, Rob. You see, people struggle with math. But anyway, my point is, it took him forever just to get into the classes he believed he could complete and the classes that he wanted. Because the institution itself was so used to being an underperforming institution that it no longer could function in a way that supported the ideal student. And so my discussions with community colleges around equity was not that you have to focus just on students of color or low income. What if you were never that good in the first place? What if you were never good at serving students in general? And like so many high-performing K-12 schools, you got to live off your laurels of having well-programmed students come in and go through the motions. Now, I'm not saying this about College of Marin, but what I'm saying is that the equity issue is not an issue to where you have some type of paternalistic view of people who have been historically marginalized, and you feel like you have to do extra unnecessary work to tug them along. The reality is, if you are a public institution, supposedly serving the public, if you have been able to exist for this long with the amount of opportunity, equity, and achievement gaps that exist, you have been in a fraudulent institution the whole time that never actually prepared you or actually intended for these folks to succeed. See, this is a shift from what in the beginning was an issue of access to now an issue of completion. And this is the difficulty, because access is opening the door to you. All I have to do is transform my idea of that I should give you a chance. But success and completion is about me transforming who I am and what I do. Two things that represent my identity as an educator and as a professional and as a person. And that shift is far more difficult for any individual, let alone an entire institution. See, I'm black. I mean, you can see, okay? But not like that. I mean, I am. Okay, this is what I'm saying. I'm black, okay? I'm African American too. But I'm black. And when I'm telling you I'm black, that means that I have a whole particular worldview. Okay? When you're trying to understand my culture or what I'm thinking about, you might want to have some idea of when I identify myself in a particular way of what that might mean in terms of my lens and my worldview. Not that I'm down on myself, not that I think that I need all this help, but my worldview shapes how I move to your institution. So when I say I'm black, it means that I grew up with the understanding that black people have to understand their history and the histories of those that they are in alliance with, which are all working class peoples of all ethnic backgrounds and locations throughout the world that are struggling against systems of oppression. Okay? So I grew up in Oakland. You go to school with white people, Asian people, Latino people, Pacific Islander people. You go to school with them from very young. So you don't really grow up saying all white people do this or all Asian people do that, because you've got so many different friends that you already know that every human being is just crazy in their own way. Okay? But my black politics also says that why would an American institution funded by a state ever be good at providing an equitable education system? If I thought that, to me, I would be naive. I would have to assume then that if everything is equitable and everything is equal, or if folks are interested in a true sense of inclusion, then the people who aren't making it and the people who are poor somehow have some special deficiency. Because the institutions are functioning so well that they have to have a special deficiency. But that's not the case, right? The reality is you're in an institution that is designed to maintain larger structures of a particular social order. And you have come into this space, many of you have come into this space to challenge that social order. If you are interested in the true education and liberation of a soul, then you are challenging a larger social order. That's beautiful. But have you acknowledged that? See, that's the question. I'm sorry, I got my sister up here. And I can't even look at her for that long, I'm telling you. I mean, she's beautiful, I know, but she's my sister. It's like, get out of my face. Lord have mercy. So what I'm talking about is this idea of poverty of culture, right? And you have these switch, right? The old term is culture of poverty, right? Culture of poverty. A lot of folks refer to, this is in teacher ed stuff. I hope I'm not putting you guys to sleep. You all right? Yeah. Okay. So you have this notion that's, I don't know, it's probably really old, but the term is about 20 years old or so, culture of poverty. The idea that folks somehow have some problem in their culture that allows them to underperform and be a certain way. And a lot of teachers and educators, when something's wrong, they talk about the culture. When the kid's not doing well, it's the culture. It's the families. It's the neighborhood, right? It's all these things that just suffering, and they just can't perform, right? And so Gloria Ladson-Billings actually, she suggests a different approach, right? Which is the poverty of culture, okay? And the poverty of culture idea is that no, there's actually a lack, an impoverished state of understanding that exists in education, okay? That folks don't understand particular things that would allow them to be better functioning professionals for marginalized communities, okay? She says here, we lack complex understandings of how individual, family, community, school, and societal factors interact to create school failure for some students. It's the interaction that's the key. School is a part of that. Education Convocation is a part of that, okay? I'm gonna get off these slides. I actually hate slides. But, I'm sorry, I love watching other people's slides, okay? I don't have like a political opposition to PowerPoint, okay? I'm just saying, I hate doing them because I get all flustered and I'm a Sagittarius and I need like freedom, you know what I mean? So I'm actually gonna leave this up because I'm gonna come to this. Can I take this off? No, I can't. Is there a cordless? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting all excited. Anyone in this? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So, anyhow, is this okay? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I mean, it's so confining. So in terms of thinking about this, we're talking about then setting up systems, but also setting up a vision. So we have to have a vision first, right? Now, when the Chancellor's Office was coming up with their whole student success initiative and going around the state, introducing their ideas to various communities, I was in policy work at the time, so I would come to these meetings and I would sit with folks. And then I was trying to be polite because I'm chocolate and I'm from Oakland, and then when you're sitting in policy stuff, there's not a lot of either. Right? So you're sitting in, and you're in Sacramento, and you look around the room, there's like 40 people in a room, like 2 are black, like 4 are Asian, like 2 are Latino, and that's it, right? And you end up with all of these white people trying to figure out how to empower people of color, which is very strange because many of those white people have never even worked with people of color. So I'm like, could you at least get some white people in a room that know people of color? That would be really great. And so you end up with these very strange ideas, right? About lazy students and taking up space, and giving them time limits so they don't keep coming back and wasting time. And they have no structure, they have no purpose. Which I made a point in one meeting. I said, all of a sudden we're talking about students that are like they have no passion, no commitment, like they need hope. But if we were the University of California and all these students we were referring to were either wealthier or lighter, you would call that finding themselves. Okay? Let's give you time to figure out. But it's community college, right? And you got my boy Rob coming to community college. He's trying to get in 3 times in 1 week, waking up early and all this stuff, trying to get there, and somebody categorizes him as not really interested, right? So this is where we want to go around discussing these issues. What is equity? If it's justice, then we're not, once again, we're shifting from access to completion, but we're also shifting from this idea of helping to an idea or charity. We're shifting from charity to alliance. Okay? Now we get into this dialogue of what does it mean to be in alliance with a marginalized population? See, that's a different question than what does it mean to open the door and let them in. Okay? Alliance with the struggling population means that you too have to understand the dynamics of struggle. Now the beauty of this is that most people can. If they tap into the more targeted elements of their identity, they can locate what it is to struggle. This is why I love educators, because most educators are struggling. And most educators are targeted. Most educators suffer. So if you tap into that, you can start to figure out what this is really about. Equity is not about looking at folks and saying, I'm going to pull you up. The idea is a purpose of reflection in your institution. And that reflection means a constant monitoring and accountability systems that hold people up to the expected standards of bringing about a justice-oriented institution. All right, I can talk about this in general terms all day, but I want to be very specific, or as specific as I can here, okay? The institutionalization of an equity ethic simply means that it's not a side conversation, and you don't talk about student success without pinpointing this idea of equity, okay? This was my challenge to the Chancellor's office, right? We're talking about student success, but you've never seen these groups as your students to begin with. So as you talk about student success, I don't know who you mean. You've gone all these years, and you're talking now about data-driven. Why are you talking now about data-driven? What were you doing before you were data-driven? Every teacher I know is data-driven. Pass or fail, A, B, C, D. How my students do? Do I suck or do they suck? That's what we do. Right? Data collection. How are you doing today? What happened with this paper? Your grammar seems a bit off. How can I help you? That's data collection, data evaluation, and designing some type of intervention. This is what teachers do all the time. So when I find an institution in 2007 or 2005 saying we need to be data-driven, I'm wondering what you were doing all along and why you're allowed to go this long without looking at disaggregated data if you claim to serve students. If you're claiming to serve students, then what am I? What are people like me? Are we students because you've never looked at the data to disaggregate it along the lines of disproportionate success and disproportionate service? You're in the United States, it's a racialized country. You look at any category, any statistic, look at income, look at housing, it doesn't matter, look at education, and you can go down the line and look at racial stratification in reality in the United States. So an institution of education that decides to disaggregate its data in 2010 never can. Now, we can articulate that in a lot of academic ways, but I'm black, I'm from Oakland, and I'm a professor. The professor says, let's examine all the reasons. We'll get to the reasons, but can we first agree that as an institution, you didn't actually care? You hired faculty members that cared and didn't support them in doing what they wanted to do. You had administrators that cared, but you had state responsibilities bearing down on them that had nothing to do with equity, distracting them from addressing these issues that you supposedly created the three-tiered master plan for higher education for in the first place. Right? So, actually, I don't pause for applause, I pause because I'm exhausted, but thank you. So what do we look for, okay? So the equity ethic is one in which we can have honest, open conversations about what's happening on our campus, and as I see here at College of Marin, blame ourselves first. Okay? It's one of the more beautiful things. You know, I'm a football fan. And I mentioned the Raider, I'm a Raider fan. I know suffering. Okay? Yeah. Is that the Niner fans talking? Okay? The epitome of privilege, okay? I'm teasing. With all your Super Bowls and all your success, right? So I'm a Raider fan, okay? I always ask, look, I respect a coach that says, we suck right now. We're not good and we haven't been good in a long time. Any coach that gets on television and starts to say, well, I think we've had some good years, we've made some progress, I don't trust them. Have you seen what I saw? Did you see the year when our quarterback could not hike the ball and dropped it on the field? Did you see the missed tackling? Okay, parallel that to education. Do you see the poor black and brown completion rates that I see? Do you see the preponderance of students of color and low-income folks in your basic skills trap? If you see what I see, and you're trying to tell me that you don't suck as a California system, then you're as bad as an Oakland Raiders coach. And if you're as bad as an Oakland Raiders coach, I know you're not going to the championships. And that's my concern when we get into these conversations, okay? Support programs as institutional resources. That's a given. Support and resource is kind of like a duh, it's the same thing, but not really. An institutional resource, meaning a space for guidance for the rest of the institution. Historically, these programs serving marginalized populations, historically targeted populations, were on the periphery of the college, both in terms of budget and in terms of college culture. Okay? I have a good friend that's at a particular college in Southern California. This college in Southern California has a whole, ooh, if you got, okay, don't check it, okay. All right, so making sure I don't give it away. They did a presentation at a conference. And at that conference, the whole presentation was about their initiative on hope and building student hope. The students need hope. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And so did some of my friends. We were in this conference, people were getting up and walking out. All the people I knew. Right? And it was all people of different backgrounds, colors, gender. People was like, yo, this is crazy, right? Hope. This is how we build hope. And I was so angry. There's a gentleman by the name of Bob Gabriner, who used to be a chancellor at the City College, and now he's an old bitter guy that I love very much. He knows it. I tell him all the time. And I told Bob, I said, what was that? He said, well, I think it's good work. I said, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. He was like, what's the problem? This is the problem. This is the problem. If a student goes online to find you, goes through whatever rinky-dink process we had online between 112 colleges for the last 10, 15, 20 years, gets themselves down to an office, talks to the folks they need to talk to, running around trying to figure out how to complete. They're stuck in basic skills. Basic skills is compacted and impacted, so they're there for years, sitting in basic skills. They're finally pushing through. Then they get a chance to take transfer classes. Can't get the classes they want. They show up every day. They got children. They got jobs. They got parents to take care of. They had bad experiences in K-12 like most Americans, right? They're going through all this stuff. They show up every day in your class, and you tell them that they don't have hope? Wait a minute. They're hoping that this is going to be worthwhile. And the question is, do you have hope? The beautiful thing about sitting at the beginning of this convocation is hearing how much hope you all have. Hearing about all the work that you're doing. The key is that your belief in every student that comes through the door. Your belief that not only can they do it, they can do more than perhaps you can imagine. This is what teachers do. I'm trying to affirm you, yes? Okay, right? But if you find that a certain percentage of teachers believe, yo, we're putting out rigor, and a certain percentage of students may disagree, that gap can be explained sometimes by this question of how we are truly perceiving the realities of who our students are and why they are where they are in life. Am I making any sense? Okay? I always ask that because I'm a teacher. And I need, where's Nicole? Keep me on time. Sagittarius. Yeah, thanks. Okay? Professional development. So the institutional resources. Get back to that really quickly. I asked the folks who said, we want students to have hope. I said, you have a great Emoja program there. You have Puente Project there. You have great stuff there. What's their involvement in your Hope Initiative? They said, there's not very much. We're hoping to meet with them soon. My close friend that works there heads their Emoja program for black students. I said, how many meetings y'all been in for the whole thing? She said, Derek, they didn't ask us nothing at no point for anything. Again, the programs are on the margins. But if you're going to pursue equity, why don't you take guidance from the programs that have been doing it well before the college committed to it? Those programs can inform, not just the planning, but all the nuances. The nuances, like in the canal area of San Rafael, you have the presence of the MS-13 gang. A gang that has over 10,000 members nationwide. They rock blue and black bandanas, and they are heavy on recruiting, both in prisons, in the K-12 area, and in, of course, highly impoverished areas. They are connected strongly to Latin America and can give students, young people, jobs very quickly, sending them down a pathway of criminal activity. That's in your area, MS-13. Okay? They also have another gang, the 18th Street Gang. 18th Street. I don't even know if there's an 18th Street in San Rafael. The 18th Street Gang is actually the name, and the gang comes from Los Angeles. Okay? This is what's happening in your realm.
What are you doing in your classes? What is the work that you're doing here as a school to challenge your adversaries in changing your students, or getting your students to go to the side of the light as opposed to the dark side? Okay? In K-12, I try and train principals. We talk about who are your enemies. I don't like to think we have enemies. We're just here to work for the kid. Well, I don't know what country you're in. Don't you know that everybody wants students' minds? No matter how young they are, to college level, to graduate level, the goal of any system is to get the consciousness on the side of those who want to profit from it, whoever that is. Okay? So if you think you don't have enemies, I don't know how you're in this profession. Of course you have enemies. It's the pimps, it's the dope dealers, it's the stupid idiots in people's families. It's the people who put messages in your students' ears about how they can and cannot succeed. Those are your enemies. Those are your adversaries. So your pedagogy and the training that you experience under professional development has to be an adversarial training that says, how do I combat the messages that they're getting, taking them the other direction in my subject matter, in my class? If this is about a student just making money, okay, then I have to add something else on top of them being able to make money to guide them down the right pathway if I have enemies as organized and as structured as particular gangs and abusive families. Does this make any sense? Okay? So what this means is the cultural responsiveness that people talk about. Cultural responsiveness is not just about it's not about racial responsiveness. It's not about racial responsiveness. You don't find a student that's Latino and say, how can I bring in something that's from Mexico? That's not it. I know it gets interpreted that way, so I'm not like mad at people for thinking that. I'm just saying that's not what it is. Cultural responsiveness is about being able to identify a student's social location and then identify the various challenges and the various triggers, but also the various launching points that exist within that social location. So if I'm working with people and I'm in science, and I want to look at where they're from, I want to do environmental racism studies. I want to look at certain things around health. I want to be able to teach them about information that can help them save themselves, their families, and understand their work. Professional development has to go that route at the faculty level. Folks have to be thinking about, how do I bring in very complex world realities into my classroom, regardless of the learning level or the reading level of the students I serve. See, literacy rates and the ability and comprehension are not the same thing. Literacy and comprehension are not the same thing. Okay? I might not be able to read, but that doesn't mean I cannot understand. As a matter of fact, if I'm in a targeted population, my understanding about the world could be far more expansive than yours if you are somehow secluded in your privilege. So if you break down, now remember I told you, I taught dynamics of globalization to grades 9 through 12. That's not like general maps and drawing pictures. That's learning the policies of the International Monetary Fund, how they use structural adjustment programs, the history of Ghana and its water system, and how that was impacted by the loans that they received from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, how the World Trade Organization actually operates, and how that whole system developed out of the 1940s after World War II. Okay? These are the things that I taught ninth graders in a low-performing school district. Why? Could they understand it? Easily they could understand it. Because the dynamics of exploitation, resource extraction, political organizing to maintain an elite class, the necessity for cross-cultural alliance in establishing liberation and freedom efforts, the importance of education and study to understand how your enemy is plotting against you. Any targeted person in the United States can understand that. The question is, do we have the courage and the talent to teach them that with their limitations in literacy? See, if we do that, we start to become a partner in their own struggle rather than providing charitable access to particular resources. We do that and we join them in a pathway towards the improvement of their family. Okay? That mentality has to be wrapped up in our institutional ethic. Okay? This is making, you guys are staring at me like, what the heck? Yo, I know I'm crazy, okay? Don't even trip. You can call me that as much as, see, I use slang and everything, but I'm crazy. But understand where I'm going with this. I'm not gonna tell you where. Yesterday, day before yesterday, I gave a 4-hour presentation and training for a faculty. Well, an entire school district of teachers, principals, and their superintendents, okay? And I've been working with them for 1.5 years. And in the end, and it was a very racist community, okay? Very racist community. Klan activity, skinhead activity. Just 5 years ago, they had an on-campus racist club of white male students that everyone knew about. That would sit together, they had a name, the whole deal, at their high school. And they were allowed to exist for about a decade, okay? And the school board actually taught me that, by the way. And so I said, how are you going to have an equity initiative if you don't declare an alliance with your marginalized students? Like, so what are you asking us to say? You're asking us to tell the public that we're going to have an equity initiative? I said, absolutely. Why wouldn't you announce it to the public? Well, I don't think that's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. One person comes up to me, she's an assistant to the superintendent, and she says, you know, he has a lot on the line, Derek. He lives here, he goes to the grocery store here, these are his friends, he'll create enemies. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you are in true alliance with your students, their enemies must be yours. That's the point. And he was like, well, I think we can put out a letter. I was like, you better not. I was like, make it a press release. I worked with you for 1.5 years. You're able to do this. Make it a press release. Let the Klan come out. Let the skinheads come out. Let them come out against you. But you're not going to shift any stable American dynamic of racial disproportionality by doing this piecemeal. You're not going to be able to do it without direct conflict. And I know I might sound like some leftist radical right now. I'm hearing myself. And folks are like, gosh, where did they get this guy? This raving lunatic, okay? And all I have to say to that is that I'm not just a raving lunatic. Okay? I'm a person that feels pain around these issues. And I've worked with people a long time of all ethnic backgrounds that mentored me. And then I've done it as well. And I'm not lying to you. I don't have a particular political agenda. I say the same thing all over the place. All I want is for human beings to be taught well and for institutions to support brilliant faculty in teaching them well. And I can't have an equity discussion that just talks about how poor people are and all the challenges they have and how difficult it is without talking about the reality that these people, all of us have fought from day one, every day, to do the best thing we can, and we need institutions to stop being paternalistic but be in alliance. And to be in alliance is not saying I'm not with all that radical stuff. If you're trying to educate everybody in America, it's radical. You ever think of that? I'm sorry, I'm yelling. Sorry. So, I'm just trying to, thank you. So, in closing, see, that's why I need to not stand over there so much. Okay. So, supervision and support structures, really quickly, okay? One of the most important experiences I had was when I worked under Richard Wood at De Anza College in the sociology department. When I got hired, he said, why do you think sociology is important? I said, is there a real answer to that, or, I mean, what you want? I don't know what to say, because I can come off like I'm coming off to you now and be like, you know, like you're already chocolate and you talk like that? Like, So I said, do you want the real answer? Is there an answer? He said, there's an answer. I said, this one you're looking for? He said, yep. I said, you want an honest one or what? He said, just go for it, Derek. And I said, sociology is important because all systems are structured for order and control. And if a person is trying to subvert any unfair ramifications of those systems, They need to understand how that system works. And so I think everyone should learn sociology so they can make decisions from a very informed basis and hopefully be happy. And I said, is that the right answer? Or does that sound a little too crazy? Because I talked about systems and order and I sound like, an activist. And he said, no, that's the right answer. I said, wow, right? When I started teaching, he came by my class and he said, hey, how you doing? I said, hey, how are you doing? What you doing here, man? I'm about to start. He was like, yeah, I just came by to tell you something. I was like, what? He's like, I'll be by next class. I said, okay, cool. Should I have drinks for you or water? I don't know what that. He said, no, I'm just coming by to observe you. I said, okay. So he comes in the next class. He sits through the whole class taking notes. He comes up afterwards and he says, you had that one lady dominate the conversation. Why is that? I said, I want to interrupt her. She was on a roll. And he was like, why is that? I said, well, she's a little older than me. I don't want to disrespect. He was like, okay. So this is our philosophy as a department. Okay, we want to be clear up front that everybody needs their time to speak, and I was like, oh, I need to say that up front, right? So he says, okay, we talk about a lot of other stuff, and then he comes back another time, second semester, same thing, okay? Each part of the conversation, each time we had the conversation, it was about what is the purpose of sociology, and what is the purpose of sociology in the context of partnership in which you are educated by those particular organizations on the nuances and the dynamics of what's occurring in the community. These partnerships are essential to moving forward because these partnerships have been doing this, these partners have been doing this work for much longer than the California community colleges have been committed to equity. Okay? So in closing, I'm supposed to shut up, okay? And I am. I thank you all for having me. I am so happy to hear about what's happening at the College of Marin. I believe you had Fran White here. Yeah, she was one of my professors, and I loved her to death. And secretly, I always kind of wanted to go to College of Marin because I ride by on my motorcycle all the time. And I was like, what a cool place to go. Wow. And I was right. It's awesome to sit here and